On June 5, 2026, Jensen Huang stood in Taipei and certified all three memory makers to ship HBM4 for Vera Rubin. The headlines called it Samsung's comeback. The numbers say something else. One company still supplies up to 70% of the memory inside every Rubin that leaves the line. And its rival just bet the most aggressive DRAM node in history, running at roughly 50% yield, to take that crown back. This is the $58 billion memory war. By the end of this video, you'll know who actually wins it through 2027 and who gets paid no matter who wins. Why is HBM4 the battleground and not just another memory generation? 3 reasons. First, the interface doubles. 2048 bits wide, up from 1024. That pushes every stack past 2 terabytes per second of bandwidth. Second, the stakes doubled too. High bandwidth memory was a $38 billion market in 2025. This year it is headed for $58 billion, growing faster than almost anything else in semiconductors. But the third reason is the one that changes the game. HBM4 is the first generation where the base die at the bottom of the stack becomes a real logic chip, built on a foundry process. Memory just became a foundry product, and that single change splits the two contenders onto completely different roads. 4 battlegrounds decide this war. Let's take them one at a time. Battleground 1, the core die, the actual memory layers inside the stack. Samsung made the aggressive call. Its HBM4 is built on 1C DRAM, the 6th generation of 10 nanometer class memory, the newest node in production anywhere. The upside is real: better density, better power, a genuine specification edge on paper. The downside is printed in the yield column. Reports through this spring put Samsung's 1C yield at roughly 50%, and the earlier 65% figures came from test wafers that were never HBM parts at all. When every second stack fails, your specification edge is paying for your scrap line. SK hynix made the boring call, and boring is the point. Its HBM4 runs on the older, mature 1B node, where yield is a solved problem. Lower ceiling on paper, far lower risk in the fab. Here is the asymmetry that frames this entire war. SK hynix owned the HBM3E generation. It just needs to not stumble. Samsung lost that generation, so it has to leapfrog, and leapfrogging means taking exactly this kind of node risk. One company is defending with proven silicon. The other is attacking with bleeding-edge silicon that does not fully yield yet. If the yield curve cracks, Samsung's bet looks brilliant. Until then, it is burning wafers to buy back a crown. Battleground 2, the base die, and this is where the two companies stop playing the same sport entirely. In HBM4, the die at the bottom of the stack stops being dumb rooting and becomes a genuine logic chip. Someone has to fab it. Samsung's answer: build it yourself. Its base die runs on Samsung Foundry's 4 nanometer process. Samsung is the only company on Earth with leading-edge DRAM and a leading-edge logic foundry under one roof. One supply chain, one margin stack, tighter co-design between the memory and the logic underneath it. SK hynix's answer: buy the best. Its base die comes from TSMC on a 12 nanometer process today. That choice costs real money. The TSMC die is estimated to add around 30% to base die production costs, but it buys the best logic execution in the world and a seat next to the same foundry that already packages NVIDIA's GPUs on CoWoS. The memory, the base die, and the package all converge on one campus in Taiwan. So an architecture question becomes a business model question. Vertical integration versus best-of-breed alliance. If Samsung Foundry executes, Samsung wins on cost and power efficiency. If it slips, and Samsung Foundry has slipped before, then SK hynix's more expensive alliance looks like the only adult decision in the room. Battleground 3, the only scoreboard that matters: NVIDIA. June 1st, GTC Taipei, Vera Rubin enters full production, first shipments in the 3rd quarter. June 5th, Jensen Huang confirms all 3 memory vendors, SK hynix, Samsung, and Micron, are certified for Rubin HBM4. Certification sounds like a tie. Allocation is not. Supply chain estimates put SK hynix at 60 to 70% of Rubin's HBM4 volume, Samsung around 25 to 30, and Micron taking the remainder. Samsung did move fast. Mass production started in February, earlier than most expected, at roughly $700 a stack, 20 to 30% over HBM3E pricing. SK hynix sells in the mid-500s on cheaper, proven silicon, and still takes the larger share. And Micron, the quiet third, matters more than its share suggests. It is the only HBM4 supplier with American fabs in a market that increasingly pays for exactly that. But here is the detail that softens every blow on this battlefield. The same week he certified 3 suppliers, Jensen was publicly urging SK hynix to make more memory. Demand still exceeds supply. In a shortage, second place still sells out. Nobody truly loses this year, which is why the war is really about who owns the stack when supply finally catches up. Battleground 4, the counterattack, because this war resets before it is even settled. In late May, 3 months after starting HBM4 mass production, Samsung began sampling HBM4E, the enhanced generation with more than 20% higher performance. Industry first. That is not a roadmap slide. Those are samples in customer hands. It tells you exactly how Samsung intends to win. If you cannot take the crown this generation, shorten the generation. SK hynix's response is already leaking through the supply chain. For its HBM4E-based die, it is weighing a jump from TSMC's 12-nanometer process straight to 3-nanometer, pulling its foundry partner's sharpest tool into the memory war. And a third front is opening. All 3 vendors are preparing custom HBM4E for hyperscalers from mid-2026. Memory tuned for one specific customer's accelerator, not for a catalog. Stop and notice what that means. High bandwidth memory is turning into a semi-custom silicon business. Design wins, customer lock-in, negotiated margins. The business model Broadcom taught the industry, arriving in DRAM. The HBM4 crown is not a trophy you keep. Whoever wins it has roughly 18 months to re-win it, on a harder node for pickier customers against a rival that has already started. So, who wins the $58 billion war? On the scoreboard, the verdict is SK hynix through 2027. It holds the yield advantage, 60 to 70% of the only customer that matters, and a base die partner that happens to be the best logic foundry on earth. Samsung closes to a real second, and you should watch exactly one number. 1C yield. If Samsung pushes it from 50% towards 70, its in-house based die flips from liability to cost weapon, and 2028 becomes a genuinely open fight. But the real verdict, the one this channel exists for, is who gets paid no matter who wins. Winner 1, NVIDIA. 3 certified suppliers for its single biggest bill of materials line item means dual source leverage in every negotiation. That certification announcement was not generosity. It was procurement strategy dressed as a compliment. Winner 2, TSMC. It fabs SK hynix's base dies today. It is the leading candidate for the 3-nanometer HBM4E dies tomorrow. And through its own packaging roadmap, it is quietly defining what the generation after that even looks like. TSMC is not fighting the memory war, it is taxing it. 2 companies on the battlefield, 2 companies above it. In semiconductors, the house always wins. This is Silicon Showdowns, the new series on this channel. Every episode, 2 companies, 1 choke point, 1 verdict on who actually wins. No press releases, no fan theories. The actual semiconductor industry view with the numbers to back it. If you want the backstory of how 3 companies turned memory into the most profitable cartel in silicon, watch the HBM cartel. It is on your screen now. And subscribe so the next showdown finds you. The AI race is decided in the supply chain. Here we keep score.